I feel what we're creating is a divide between us and our own players and manager.
Yeah.
Welcome to the OhSoSpurs podcast. Tottenham have fought back to get a point against Manchester United at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and continue to be free of their defeat before the international break curse. But it was a bonkers game and there was loads to unpack in there. There were green shoots, some no shoots, and some debatable points of improvement that we're going to discuss today as well. And I've got a wonderful panel to go through it with today. We have a guest in who you've seen on other episodes in Aaron. How are you, sir?
Hi. Yeah, very well. Glad to be here. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well, thanks. Doing very well. We have Stuart over in Dubai. How are you, Stu? Stop showing off. And a man who's definitely not pink from too much sun today. It's Johnny in Dublin. How are you, Johnny?
No, but I was tickled pink by Liverpool going under 3-0 because I'm pinning my hopes on City stopping the Arteta party at the end of the year. So that was a nice end to the weekend.
Yeah, we need him to do that thing where City just win 15 games in a row and everyone just
100%.
goes, how do you do that? That's just not real life. So just do that this season once more and then get relegated next season when we'll be really good and then you can be out of the way. That sounds fair, right, Pep? Anyway, guys, can we just quickly touch on Tottenham and Man United? Because that's why everyone's here. Before going into the members' questions, and then we'll do a bit of fun trivia at the end as well, as we always do. I don't think trivia is the right word, Johnny, is it, by the way, for these? It's not. It's a fun hypothetical situation. What do we call it? The madcap minutes. I don't know.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah.
Madcap minutes, the crew. Yeah. So the lineup, folks, the discussion point seemed to mainly center around the left wing, partly because, and I will caveat this, we don't have a standout, clear first name on the team sheet in that position. We've got a young Wilson Odobert who seems to be improving. You've got who our left wing option was last year, who was Richarlison, and he completely splits the stadium on most occasions on whether he should be starting or not. But it was a big talking point. Johnny, I'll start with you. When you saw that left wing position, did you think, how did you feel about that? Do you feel it was the strongest option we had, or?
No, I didn't. I mean, it's, if we're being entirely honest, because now we know what happened, right? But I did think that given the way that Tuesday went and given the fact that it's an international break, so resting players for the next fixture isn't such a key consideration. In fact, it's not a consideration at all. You kind of think, well, you go with your best option. Given the way that the doggy and Odobert dovetailed very nicely the other night in Europe, that would have seemed to me to be kind of the more logical way to go at the beginning. And Richie kind of moving, I know there was sort of both kind of up top there. Richie wasn't really playing as a left winger per se, but because he doesn't. But it seemed that was something we were missing. And I think that was definitely what was proven to be the case once they were both playing, unfortunately, by the time Odobert came on at halftime with the Moani injury. And then the doggy, I'm not sure exactly what minute it was introduced, maybe like 60-something minutes or something like that, maybe even a bit later. But like when Porro came off and Spence switched, that definitely helped. So for me, that was the obvious thing in terms of the starting 11, really, that was an issue. We talked in the previous pod about Sarr and Palhinha being the option in the middle, and that was good to see that Frank went with that. So yeah, otherwise, kind of as expected, Johnson back in his familiar right, because obviously Kudus is not available, so otherwise not really anything contentious. But I think the left was a big issue for sure.
Yes, it was. And Aaron, the interesting thing was, I think a lot of fans were saying Udogie and Odobert felt like a more cohesive option because they're left-footed and that's their natural kind of suited roles, and allowing Spence then to go to the right, kind of Spence would fit the profile of a Frank fullback better than a last season's Ange wingback in Porro, as an example. So it just felt like that would give more balance. But I would caveat this before I ask the question. We don't have any of the data on player load. We don't know if a player is, when these teams of analysts and scientists say this player runs a high risk of being injured, because he's played a lot of football, Udogie, recently, and he's got an injury history. So we should caveat this with we don't know that. Having said that, do you feel they were the main reason for the flow state of the game changing when they came on? Or do you feel there were other factors at play there?
No, I think that has a lot to do with it. Part of it is because, as Johnny said, Richarlison wasn't exactly playing as a left winger. In fact, I thought he was maybe rotating a little bit with Kolo Muani. So for a while, it wasn't really sure which one was going to take up the wide position on the left. Partly because Odegaard will, as we know, take on his man. And when you have Johnson on one side and Richarlison on the other side, neither one of them give you a whole lot 1v1 against their fullback. So that means you can't really shift to defense on either side in that manner. And so I would have liked to see Odegaard paired with Johnson if you're going to go in that direction, because then you at least have an outlet on the left where you can maybe push United to double up or be aware of the possible threat of a 1v1 situation with the winger. And then finally, Udogie, like you said, we don't know what his fitness situation is, what kind of minutes he has to use right now. But I do like him a bit better, I think, at this point than Spence on the left side, not just because he's left-footed, but because he'll drive the ball forward. We're lacking in progression in a few ways. So he's one way that we move the ball forward when he drives with it. And I think Spence is outstanding, and he covers up for a lot of the weaknesses that you would have playing a right-footed player on the left. So it makes it tricky. But I think at this point, I'd like to see Udogie in there a bit more, and Odegaard as well.
Gio, I feel bad not asking you about Destiny. He's normally your boy. But I will start to go into the game itself. The first goal of the game, it did feel frustratingly familiar with a lot we've seen over the last few seasons, where a mistake in midfield leads to, like, the mistakes kind of act like a chain reaction. Like a kind of obvious mistake leads to half mistake to another half mistake to another half mistake, and then there's a goal. And you can see it happening. The ball's turned over, and you think, we're not set up to stop this now because it's an unexpected turnover. Do I just switch off and turn it back on in a minute? Or if you're in the stadium, just close my eyes and put my hands on my ears, and then in a couple of minutes I'll re-engage in the game. But did you feel you knew that goal was coming once? I think it was Sarr. It was Pap Sarr, wasn't it? I was in the ground, so it wasn't as clear to see who was there at the end of the pitch.
Sarr started the mess. Then when the cross went over to the left-hand side, and Spence kind of got his head to it, but then didn't really clear it. As soon as that cross came out, I was like, it's a goal. And yeah, it was just that, as you said, it was just inevitable. We've seen this too many times. That you can almost feel it coming. And it is frustrating because just like, the previous game, we're just giving goals away by silly mistakes. And sometimes you just have to clear it. Sometimes you have to speak to each other. It's frustrating, just unbelievably frustrating. And even more so when it feels like when we attack, the other team's defenders don't make those same mistakes that we do. But yeah, it's, as you said, it's something that's not new. It's been going on for a few years now. So it is what it is. And I presume it'll take some time before whoever the manager is irons it out.
Yep. Oh, whoever the manager is. Johnny's face there. I was delighted, though, just go to the equaliser a sec, Johnny, and we'll just quickly work our way through this match because we want to get to some of those topics soon, of kind of the post-match comments, the vibe around the ground, but also our members' questions. But I was so happy when I saw the player celebrating had the white bandage on their hand and arm, because I knew it was Matisse Tel. I thought, yes, for a young player to have those moments, it's so important. And I didn't see the deflection in the ground. I just saw a ball going, as you probably did, into the corner, thinking, what a strike. Yes. What did you make of the goal, mate? Were you glad it was Tel?
Very, very glad it was Tel for two reasons, I suppose. I mean, first of all, for the player himself, is most importantly because he's only very young, and he needs moments like that to get his confidence. And as we were saying before, we were low on goal scoring options, so he looked. It was very accomplished and very confident piece of skill. It was kind of Jermaine Defoe-esque. I thought the way that he adjusted his body, moved it, and almost kind of just a very fluid finish, very confident. So that was superb. A little bit lucky maybe with the way the ball was deflected to the keeper's left instead of the right. It was going low to the right. I still think, looking at it with my rose-tinted spectacles on, that there's a decent chance it would have gone in the other corner anyway, looking at how the path of the ball before it hit to Licht's foot. But yeah, no, it was that was fantastic. So it was really, really good for him, and he'd kind of like been the innocent victim of the booing that had greeted the substitution, because the fans certainly weren't booing Matisse Tell's introduction, but they were definitely, those who did choose to protest like that were definitely not pleased with the Siemens substitution. And Aaron and I were sitting together in the East, and we definitely couldn't really make a lot of sense out of it either, because Siemens did look like our most likely outlet for something creative, because that's really undoubtedly the role he'd played for the majority of the game. So yeah, it was as a consequence for that. Also happy for Thomas Frank, because I mean, then you hear the pundit saying, well, you know, he was proven right, and it always kind of like slightly puzzles me that the managers get all of this sort of either the credit for something like that, which, I mean, he's not the guy that did what the player did. I know he put him on the pitch, but they can be quite fortunate, can't they? Like they know what they're doing. You know, the guys who go on combine to score the goal, and then conversely they miss a sitter, and then it's the manager's fault. It's like, it's a bit nonsense, to be honest with you. But Thomas Frank at least didn't have to get the same roasting he would have done if someone else had scored, or it had petered out into a 1-0 defeat, because that would have been a completely different scenario. So yeah, very happy it was Tell.
Well, the euphoria got even bigger shortly afterwards, and I think at this point we're thinking there may have been disagreements about the starting 11, but he's got the subs spot on here. The momentum of the game has shifted. There's a lot to be, you know, I was already feeling pretty good at 1-1, thinking, yes, I want to be beating Man United at home. I don't think they're a very good side and all those things. But I did think we've seen patterns of play going forwards. There's just that general vibe of seeing the players fight for a win, which to me shows they're backing this coach and they want to make this work. And that the goals didn't just mean something to them. It meant something to, that whole group, which was lovely to see. And Aaron, Richie, having the last thing I saw of Richie, and I said it on the last thing I did with JJ, was the guy in front of me was in a WhatsApp group, which was called Scum Free Zone. And it just said Rich Arlison, and then he just pressing the poo emoji over and over and over and over and over and over again until like fill up the screen. Then as I left, I was just leaving to go help my uncle out of his seat. And then the place kicks off. We've scored what I think's the winner. But yeah, real polarized performance in a way, wasn't it, from Richie?
That's what he does, right? He I don't know, he'll do odd things where you think, like, how's the ball bounced off him there? Or why did he make that decision? What could he possibly be thinking? And he turns up and he just does a little flick and, gets you your goal. And he's winding everybody up all the way. So I don't know. I have a lot of time for Richie. I love the guy. I mean, I think there are better players that we could have, particularly playing on the left side. But yeah, I have a lot of time for him, except, that once the shirt comes off at this point, after his goal, it's a bad omen. Because it just seems like we're about to concede once that shirt comes off. He's not allowed to have that. So
yeah, well, it was to be dashed, and forgive me, as I said before this went live, I missed their equaliser. That was the point. I did scupper off out. I must admit, I hate leaving early, but I did on this occasion, thinking we'd won, delighted, had to walk back to the car, got in the car, turned on the radio, and then found out on TalkSport we hadn't won the game, as someone was on there bashing Vicario. Stu, was it Vicario's fault? Tell me about that. Oh, you're on mute, some of you. Go on, mate. Sorry, was it Vicario's fault?
You're asking the wrong man if you're expecting someone to blame Vicario. I think the Ligt getting the ball wasn't Vicario's fault. Once he got his hands to the ball, could he have kept it out? Probably should have. I mean, it was a good header, so maybe he should have kept it out. But I think the fact that everyone's going on and can't handle crosses and you cross it to the box is a goal, but it's kind of stuff. I think it's a little exaggerated, and it was not unexpected, because I find it amusing that especially our fan base have been slagging him off constantly. He has like 3 man of the match displays in a row. No one says a word. And as soon as there's a chance to have a go again, they're at it. And it is honestly driving me nuts.
Yeah, it's across the park of numerous players at the moment, isn't it? He definitely gets it. every goal is typically reacted with keeper could have done better, but you could imagine that with every goal. You could look at any goal for any team in the league and say, if their keeper had stood there instead of there, it would have saved that. But you don't know if that's where they should have been or shouldn't have been. I guarantee you, if you said to any side outside the top four, they would bite your hand off for Vicario as their goalkeeper. And he's only not in his national team because of an outstanding goalkeeper ahead of him who is considered, world best kind of conversation. So yeah, I do agree with you. Little defense there. And when the opposition have an unmarked centre back able to head the ball at your goal within a few yards, can you really blame the keeper fully on that for not saving it? Feels a bit harsh to me. I think the keeper, if they save it, they've gone above and beyond in that situation. But if they don't save it, it's not really their fault. It's just, it is what it is. They just didn't pull off something really special in that moment, and it was a goal. So yeah, it is what it is, guys. I do want to call something out I wasn't very happy with, and it's the booing, guys. I get the frustration, but I'm struggling to get my head around anything positive with these halftime boos at the moment. I don't know what people want, because if that's supposed to encourage the players to something different, it's not going to. If it's because you don't like the manager, we're 11 games into a season, it just feels like, are you booing to get them out so we can bring back Ryan Mason? Johnny, is that what you want? What do you think of all the booing? You go to all the games as well. What do you think of it?
Well, we were 1-0 down at halftime, and there were a decent smattering of boos. It was definitely very audible. It wasn't as loud as it has been many other times. Then, of course, there was the Siemens booing, which was probably louder than the halftime booing. And then at full time, there were no boos that I could hear, which, I mean, I'm glad. For God, that would have been really shocking, to be honest. Although we were all probably really disappointed because we just thrown away, 2 points as a result of that last goal. But so, I mean, it was a weird feeling after the game because we were definitely disappointed to be going off. But I mean, and if you'd said to me, will you take a point with 10 minutes to go? Of course, I'm going to say yes. If you'd said to me, will you take a point before the game? I probably wouldn't have said yes, although I'm kind of not that No, it's not a bad result. We've seen so much dross at the stadium in terms of certainly results and performances, let's be honest. Seen some absolutely shocking results this year, losing to Leicester 2-1. I mean, when you're sort of picking out games when you've not lost as being the minority, we've lost 10 times in the games that I've seen this season at home. So, and we've only won 3. So I get why the fans are very impatient, and that doesn't mean, however, that I subscribe to the booing, because I really, really don't. And Aaron and I were saying, after Siemens was substituted yesterday, that we really were having an issue. We were having a difficulty with the booing. And one of the things we were saying is, like, it also helps the opponent. It doesn't just put your own players under a little bit of extra pressure, but like and I was listening to, I think it's the podcast the journos do is at the Tottenham Way or something, and they were talking about that it's something that is kind of, the journalists of other teams are even talking about, like, going to the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium and that being a factor that's actually spoken about now, because of the situation, and because they know that the fans probably have a bit of a short fuse when it comes to maybe losing that patience and being quite vocal about it. We've seen a lot of it, in fairness, over the years, from your Emerson Royals and your Davinson Sanchez's and all these players that kind of get picked on, Brennan Johnson, and of course then the managers. But for me, I totally agree with your sort of preamble to the question, Jim. It's incredibly counterproductive, as much as you can sort of understand where the sort of seed of it. All we're doing is helping the opponent and putting our own pressure and own players under pressure, and feeding a media narrative which drives us all nuts anyway, because we think there's an agenda against Spurs, or certainly I do. I think most of us do. And that's the sort of thing that just gives them something else to have a pop at the club and the fans for. It's been a bit of a joke. So yeah, really frustrating. And, players can hardly make a mistake really without a very kind of visceral is too strong, but a very present kind of reaction from the fans. So there was a really shocking pass at one point from QT yesterday in the second half, and set them up in an attack. And like, this is a guy that's just, he plays he fought really hard yesterday. He didn't leave anything behind, and he, in a way that it wasn't a bad thing he came off, because like I could have seen him getting a second booking yesterday. And to boo your captain, okay, it was a misplaced pass. It was a really bad pass, but come on. So yes, Jim. Sorry, bit of a monologue in there, but it's definitely not a good thing. It's definitely not a good thing.
I feel what we're creating is a divide between us and our own players and manager as fans, where they don't particularly warm to us. Like, I don't think our players are coming to Tottenham and being like,
No.
oh, what an amazing set of supporters that I can warm to, that are going to back me, that are, they're patient with me when I'm learning and growing. They're respectful that I'm trying all the time. They appreciate the 20 goals I scored last season and don't call me crap for other reasons. They appreciate, like just a Brennan Johnson example.
Yeah.
Can I just say a little, I know you can partially look at him as one of the reasons we conceded that late equaliser. Can I say the first 30 minutes he was quite good, but what I was pleased to see was him running at players more in that game. But still, he's met with boos and da-da-da-da. It's like, all we can ask these people to do is try their hardest, and if they're not good enough, go find Johan Langer's house and throw eggs at it. Like, he's the guy with the scouting strategy and the data, right? Go blame his algorithm or whatever it is he's using, or go find Fabrizio Paratici and grab his AirPods out of his ears and stamp on them. But don't boo the player who's been signed up to this, sees Tottenham as a wonderful opportunity and loves playing for us. And what's it going to... We've got a show coming out soon. I've spoken about a few times. I'm interviewing Angus, who played for Aberdeen and Hull and all these other clubs. They see this stuff on social media. They see it. They feel it. They hear it. It affects them. Like, it does make a difference. Have rants for your mates, but I just find it so good. Go on.
We all want Mickey to sign this new deal, right? Literally a couple of games ago, he stormed off the pitch because he was so annoyed with the booing of our fan base. So it has consequences. It's clear. They're not going to hang around if a bigger club comes, because they're going to think, oh, why should I stay here? They don't appreciate it anyway. And I think we need, as a fan base, we really need to think what we're doing. I mean, how many players have we chased off social media? Bergwijn, because he had the goal to hit the post and not score a goal. I mean, what are we doing?
And it's not like it's just like every club has it. Some clubs have it more than others. Every club has it to a degree. But I don't know. It feels like we're getting a reputation for being a toxic club to play for. And our expectations are here. The size of the club isn't quite that level. And it just creates a very difficult place to be in. And the hangover from... But Aaron, I want to ask you, because I think you, me and Johnny in particular, we had this kind of whole, thing with Postecoglou. I don't want to bring him up, but we were very defensive of his era. And it would be the most hypocritical thing to then go in 2-footed on the next person and not give them the same respect, the same time, the same opportunity we demanded of that person. But I do feel, do you feel there's a bit of people who wanted Ange to stay are lashing out a bit at Frank, and that drives it. But I think that's where people jerk to. But having now settled, a lot of this noise is coming from the same people who wanted Postecoglou gone. Now want Thomas Frank gone. Is it a patience thing? I don't know. Can you put your finger on it?
I mean, it is delicate for a few reasons. I think, for one, yes, you have to separate being critical of maybe the manager or the way that we're setting up or the way that we're playing, and being impatient and or discouraging toward our players, especially in the ground and on the pitch. Because I think you have to allow, I mean, we're 11 games into the league season. Whatever you think about, whatever your personal expectations are for where we're supposed to be right now, it's still very, very early in this. And even if you, as of this moment, don't believe that, for example, Thomas Frank could turn things in a better direction, or if you didn't think he was the right appointment, and by the way, I'm not saying that I think either of those things. Even if you do think those things, you have to, for the sake of sanity, you have to reserve that judgment and give time for the scenario to play out, because it's too early to be able to judge that. And in terms of the booing, I just want to say really quickly on this, by disposition, I'm not a booing type of guy, and I don't like to hear it. I don't like to do it. Threshold is pretty high for me to think that that's warranted, and I don't think we're anywhere near that kind of threshold, especially this early. The term supporter is not something that exists really in US fan culture. It's something that you guys have that's actually quite nice, I think. I shouldn't have said you guys. It's something that but it's something that exists in English football culture that we're talking about now. That is a nice thing. And I think it's worth bearing in mind, even if it sounds a little bit silly, bearing in mind that without aggrandizing the role of the fan or the supporter, that, like everybody else has said, these players and managers can say whatever they want about whether they care or not, but they do care. They do hear it. They do read what people's reactions are. And we can either put them under more pressure, which isn't going to help them, or we can get behind them and get behind the team and hope for the best.
Yeah, I just find it so. Someone described it as they self-described it on social media on X, and I thought it was quite brave of them to be that honest. And they said, someone said, "Do you actually enjoy football?" And they said, "No, I don't enjoy watching Spurs. I generally don't enjoy it." And he said, "It's not the manager. I just don't enjoy watching it. I don't actually, look forward to those 90 minutes or enjoy them. But I'm utterly addicted to the part between games and after games where I have been told my opinions wrong, and I'm now able to validate it based on what just happened. And then the middle bit in between is, again, he worded it way better than this, but you know what I mean? And I feel like we've all been in that situation to a degree. I think we got like it with Ange a lot of the time. It was got very kind of like, he can't do wrong. He's saying that in the press conference because he's got to defend himself here. How dare you? He's just defending the club. And then there's a different perspective completely over there. And then you just get in these kind of pits of misery. And I feel even now there's people who have decided Frank's not the guy from the start. And every game we can't be getting better, because if we are, that opinion's wrong. I'd rather he got sacked and we can just move on with another guy, and then I can say I was right, and then I can enjoy this next journey. And I saw someone's example who hated Levy on Twitter, and they said, "I can finally support Spurs." What? So you're saying you deliberately didn't support any manager while he was there because of... And this is just... Anyway.
It's
had
funny, Jim,
Go on.
when you watch the Thomas Frank press conferences, and they're not sort of box office of Ange Postecoglou and his charisma, and the box office value that he was to the media, and then they kind of turned him all that, and then that kind of brought another edge to that whole kind of recipe of razzmatazz and entertainment that the media feeds off. But Thomas Frank, for being the stereotypical Scandinavian, is actually trying to, who can't really follow on this hot-headed Aussie Greek fella, but he's still trying to actually, he's trying to like forge an identity. He's trying to make a connection with the supporters. He makes references to the beautiful shirt and the fabulous fans. And there was a week or two ago, he was talking about the best fans in the world. And when he was saying that, I was thinking, hey, fair play to you. Like, you're doing what you can. And I know that obviously he's making decisions that people might disagree with, but he's doing it in his honest way that he thinks is going to be successful. And people will pick on like the choice of words. And like, to a degree, I was thinking after when I was watching Match of the Day, and Amaram is saying how he's disappointed with the point and think that they deserve to win. And Thomas Frank is saying kind of like, well, obviously I'm not happy that we conceded when you're winning in the last minute. But kind of like he was just pretty much saying he's happy with a draw. I was thinking, well, there's something he's communicating there, which doesn't really help this narrative of this pragmatic, kind of cold or just, much more clinical kind of a manager than what we've been used to. But and that's annoying, because when people think that something's happened and that, like the way the game went is not, I don't think United deserve to win, for example. But Thomas Frank is doing the best he can. He's not some kind of donkey. Just as Ange Postecoglou had been very successful in so many different leagues, and he brought us the trophy in May. Thomas Frank is in the door a few months. He's doing what he can with a squad that he hasn't built, changing the system obviously significantly. And he's working with players who are very, very young. And it's going back to what you were saying about the whole business of patience and this people being so binary, and 1 minute one player is a joke, and then they're the manager's being lambasted because he's not starting the same player that a couple of weeks before was getting it in the neck. Because like everyone's like, loads of people slagging off Odegaard and Tell a couple of weeks ago. Loads of people slagging off Xavi Simons a week or two ago. And now, like, they're booing when Xavi's being taken off. I mean, wouldn't beat your mind up. I know it's not everybody. I know lots of people are like, much more kind of trying to be more measured about these things. But Odegaard, Tell, and Xavi, like, you add them three together, and they're not much older than me on my own. Like, those are kids. They're only young fellas. And they're doing really, really well. And we just have to get behind and realize they're going to have bad games. And that's okay. That's normal, So, yeah, it's really, really frustrating, and it is the world that we live in to a degree. But the noise is got to be getting. I don't know. I wouldn't want to be a professional footballer from the point of view just like that spotlight that you're in. If you're at a club like ours, I think it'd be really hard. As much as it's sort of your dream to pull on the cockerel, run out onto that pitch should be the best thing ever. But I would hate it too. I don't really. Yes, it would be pretty toxic.
But
Stu's got his hand up there. I just want to pass over to him quick.
Sorry, it was from before. I forgot to take it down. But wouldn't you say as well? We're talking about the players that until 2 days ago were rubbish and overrated, and we should never have bought them, a waste of space and all the rest of it. But also for the manager, look at Amorim. For a year, people have been saying he's useless, he's out of his depth, he won't change, he needs to go. Why are they sticking with him? And they were, 10 minutes away from going second in the league. Guys, patience. And there's proof, so much proof, whether it's managers or players. You give people time, you support them, you get behind them, you make them feel confident, and things can happen.
I don't want to if I give Aaron this question, it's like the worst one to give, because I feel it's like just making someone the Brennan Johnson of the group, because but so I'll kind of lead into it. This is me starting this provocative, but I think like it doesn't mean you have to be like overtly positive about everything Frank does. He's not doing everything right. And I think, Aaron, you've written a few things on this around the data behind him. I know you have. I've read it. It's brilliant articles on your Substack. Check out Prof Spur Substack. But there is a thing we can't hide from. We've created the 19th most chances in the league. That is not good. XG position in the table doesn't, and I've got issues of XG, but the XG numbers don't rank to where we are. So I can get it. People are concerned. The eye test as well. We're making mistakes. We're not creating a lot. The midfield double pivot thing. Get all that. I get it. I get the frustrations that he's historically at Brentford had been in a role where you are typically reacting to your opposition rather than kind of setting the stall out of an away of an exciting brand to play. Get all that. But, Aaron, there is nothing, as we said before about Ange and all these guys, they're elite individuals at the top of their game to reach this level. I feel like if you give these people enough time and the right resources and good consistent recruitment, they will figure it out. And Klopp and Arteta have been examples of that, where they didn't start off brightly, did they? But anyway, you've written things on this, so I'll pass you a bit on that topic, see what you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying to somebody earlier today, I feel sometimes like I'm being perceived as harder on Frank than I really mean to be, because the underlying numbers, like you just said, for us so far are not good. But the thing is, again, it's so early, but also you have to imagine that a manager of his caliber, of Frank's caliber, is going to continue to grow into the role in terms of his ideas and the way he wants us to set up and play as well. Managers do change things. And also what's happening right now, it's not just, I mean, the whole league is bizarre. I'm going to lean a little bit on something I heard on the Athletics, the TIFO podcast, and something John McKenzie mentioned recently, that a lot of managers right now are trying to figure out tactically what they're doing. So bizarre stuff is happening in the league. Even Liverpool and City are playing in kind of this way one week and this way the other in terms of how they're strategically, how they're setting up and how they're going about it. So I think we're in a moment now where there isn't like a clear cut, this is the way you play, this is the way that everybody's trying to imitate or adapt to. And Frank is just another manager who's part of that. And so to come through a period of, I would say, league-wide tactical flux in fifth in the table are we through 11 with a very strong goal differential. I mean, yeah, I don't want to keep going like this in the sense of sort of massive overperformance of our underlying numbers. But this is one of the reasons why I think we just need a bit more time and we shouldn't be trying to judge things too swiftly. And people like me and others need to just admit that we don't actually have the answer. Like, we don't really know how this is all going to pan.
Yeah, it's and just to say people get their way. You really don't like him. He's gone tomorrow. Okay. If you want Glasner or Iriola, what you're going to find is they fall in the same bucket of manager as Frank in the sense that they may have varying styles, but they also don't have defined styles for a club like Spurs. Their defined styles are like Frank's defined styles at Brentford as a clubs that, the mission is not to lose and to win when possible. And the expectation of a big six stereotypical club is you win most of your games. You set out and you play a way that's so hard to counteract because you've got such good players and you're so good at it and you just overwhelm the opposition. And yes, even if they know how you're going to play every week, they can't stop you, no matter what they try and do. So it's just a different type of job. And anyway, enough of that. Let's get to the members' questions because we're going to get on a massive old rabbit hole at the moment. So we'll start with there was a 3-part question here. I believe it's from Sean, but do we persevere with Spence at left back? And is the age of Richarlison over? And should Scarlett be getting more minutes? So there's a 3-part there. Stu, I don't know why I feel like I should ask you the Scarlett question. Should Scarlett be getting more minutes? I think because last season you advocated him to get more minutes. I think that's why.
Scarlett, to be honest, Scarlett was disappointing on loan last season, and I was hoping he would go out on loan. And Frank even said in the pre-match conference he was asked about it, and he says that basically he can't promise Scarlett what he needs, which is regular game time. So I think he will likely be sent out on loan. That said, with the injury to RKM, rumors out that he's going to be out for 6 to 8 weeks, he could get chances. And to be fair to him, the few times he's actually been given a chance, he has made a contribution both last season and now this season. So maybe. I mean, Richie, I do think he offers a lot of threat, but he's been infuriating recently. So it might be worthwhile giving him, some minutes at the end of games just to see if he can get up to speed because, you never know.
Someone said, was it Tom? No, it wasn't Tom, but it was George Sessions. Does that sound right? I'm sorry if I got the wrong George. I think it was George Sessions, but he was part of the embargo section of the press conference, has said that Solanke is now doubtful after the international break. So just bonkers the idea that, Richarlison just seems to, for whatever reason, find himself as we criticize the guy, but we need him. We desperately need the guy. Get rid of him. With no Solanke and no Muani for a long period of time.
Frank was asked if Solanke was going to be involved in that friendly match during the international break that Dragusin is going to be playing in, and he said no. So that tells you that he's still quite a way away. So we really don't have many options.
It's interesting though. Again, going back to it's kind of like the conversation amongst fans, and it's a normal part of the discourse. The fans are kind of a bit of a moan or a bit of a whinge, and we definitely want our academy players to come through because it's been, Skip didn't quite happen really, and Harry Winks didn't quite happen. So, under the shadow of Harry Kane, whereas we really want that. Troy Parrott didn't happen, although he's doing really well now in their Divisi. So,
not today,
I think okay, fair. Obviously, I didn't realize that the PSV were playing them, but yeah, it's Charlotte didn't go on tour. Am I right? Because he was stayed back to see if he could get a club to go on loan, and he didn't get a club to go on loan. And now all of a sudden, he's the guy who's supposed to be saving our bacon and challenging. And listen, it's very easy for me to say, oh, Brazil's number 9 or whatever, a scorer of the best goal in the last World Cup, blah, blah, blah. Richie definitely has his issues for sure. But I think at the same time, there's a reason that he is not featuring where even Tell, who's younger than, Tell's pedigree and Tell's experience at the top level is in a completely different reality from Dane Scarlett. Fans are going to complain about Mikey Moore going on loan to Rangers, and then he goes up to the SPL. He scored a really good goal today, by the way, but that's his first goal for Rangers. He's not exactly been tearing the SPL on fire. So it's the easy thing to say. It would be brilliant if we did have academy players coming through, and we're always looking to who the next person is. But I think it's a bit kind of slightly delusional, with all due respect. Scarlett came on, did really well the other day, won a penalty. It was a good piece of play, and it's great to see him coming on. Actually played with a bit more confidence than I think he usually just seems to be a bit of a shadow sometimes when he comes on. I think in those cameos doesn't really play with the conviction from my memory. But I definitely think he looked a bit brighter against Copenhagen. Maybe the match situation enabled him to do that a little bit. But, if he comes in and he makes me eat my words, I'd be only delighted, obviously. That's what we all want. But yeah, it's just a bit of an easy thing to toss away.
I think logically, you're right, Johnny. If you look at Lancashire, for example, he went to the same club that Scarlett went to last year, and he's already scored 5 goals. So he's having a bigger impact than Scarlett did on one last year. The only thing that offers perhaps some hope to all of us with regards to Scarlett is that the fan forum at the beginning of the season, Romero was asked who he thought was the brightest prospect, and he mentioned Scarlett.
Okay. Very good.
That's good to hear. Because I think the next question is around snapshots on development, and how we're looking at Spurs in the short and long term. I think we discussed the short term, where we are. It's just, if you want to know where we are in the short term, you're probably going to need to wait a bit longer to really know. It is really hard to say. We do obviously have a financial base and a legacy from the way we've been run over the last 20 years. That means, we have to mess things up quite consistently over and over and over and over and over again to find ourselves in a bad position. So yeah, that's a positive there. And there's a chance that this whole era could work out. Brilliant. Yeah, almost nuts. But how do you feel in general, Frank aside for a second, Aaron, about the long term of Spurs? So I guess we'll resign long term, the next 10 years, shall we say?
Well, like you said, the financial side of things is in good shape, and the structure of the club now, I think, is a bit more modern and in good shape. And we have a lot of really good young players. People can have debates right now about whether Xabi Simons is what he's cracked up to be right now, but he's 22 years old. So I think the future in terms of we're not doing what Chelsea have done, nor should we. But if just some of the young talent that we have now come good, then we're looking really good. So I think recruitment wise, one thing that we've been good at is getting some of the top young players in that are within our grasp. And that's very promising.
Yeah. It's the one thing that's not promising that we haven't really spoken about today is the injury list, which is just ridiculous at the moment. And we said this before, I am so glad we did change manager, because the blame that would be going on right now for having the biggest injury list in the league again. But the frustrating thing is, guys, so many of these are freak injuries, like Muani's jaw. That's not from overtraining. That's and there's lots of examples of that. And what makes it more annoying, I think, is we've got people I often see if you're in the camp of the manager's great, you're going to typically blame the players. And if you think the players are great, you're going to blame the manager typically. And there's some outliers there. And I'm seeing a lot of people throwing the players as the reason under the bus. And I'm thinking, it's amazing, really, despite 10 players out, you're fielding these teams like against Man United, and you're going, that's still a pretty good starting 11. Like, you've still got Van der Ven, Romero, Doggy, Spence, Porro, Bentancur, Paulinia. Those are Champions League start. And when we say internationals, I mean good, genuine internationals who are not in the side because their understudy sucks, and there's no competition for the spot. They're in good sides. The same with Vicario's I think he's a good player. He's still could hold his own in a Champions League level for sure. So yeah, there's loads good there. But I think what's annoying is how much Maddison and Kulusevski and Solanke feel like they would fit what we need right now. And not having them is gutting. But there you go. We'll wrap up. Should we do a bit of fun question at the end? Do you want to do a bit of fun trivia? Johnny, have you seen the advert of Cristiano Ronaldo when he wakes up in a child's body and has to retrain to become Ronaldo, and the child wakes up in his body?
No.
So this child wakes up and he's in Ronaldo's. He wakes up and looks over the bed and there's a woman next to him and he goes, "I don't know you." He looks out the window and he goes, "Why have I got Lamborghinis? Why have I got why am I?" And he looks in the mantelpiece and he looks in the mirror and he goes, "I'm Cristiano Ronaldo."
Wow.
The issue is it's match day. He isn't able to drive the Bentley, crashes it, terrible at training. Anyway, and this kid has to then work his way up to Ronaldo's level before his contract ends. This is quite a story. But Ronaldo's woken up in this little kid's body in the middle of nowhere, and he's had to work his way up, and then they end up playing each other in the Champions League final or World Cup final or something. Unreal. So my question to you is, Johnny, you've got to do this. You've got to be in the swap.
Okay.
Who you swapping with? So who are you waking up in the bed house of in the Tottenham squad? They're waking. By the way, they wake up in your body. So you've got to think about what they're going to do in you, because there's going to be a time period where you suddenly switch back.
Oh, really? I don't get to stay as that person.
They switch back, they play each other in the final and they switch back afterwards.
So I have to inherit their decisions whilst everyone thinks it was
there's
me.
A 5-year period where you guys are going to swap.
Oh, 5 years. My goodness. Right. Okay. That actually puts a different complexion on things, doesn't it? See,
you could end their career. Or you
they could end my career.
Opportunity to continue their career.
Old, so it doesn't really matter as much. I don't want to get but my job, in spite of some of the things that come out of my mouth, my job actually, I do need to be fairly thoughtful about how I behave. So whoever I swap with is actually gonna they're gonna be responsible for 24, 11 and 12-year-olds and to deal with their parents, and that's maybe gonna dictate my answer more than which player I would like to be. So who would I trust to do my job is probably the question. And who oh my God, I don't even think about certain aspects of this scenario. Okay. They're
going to see you in the shower. Well, they're going to be you in the shower.
Yeah,
you'll be them in the shower.
No, things that I'm not even going to contemplate. We don't need anyone listening or watching, especially, to be imagining.
You're going to have to go to HotSpur Way as this person.
That would be class. All of that stuff, that's brilliant, obviously.
But you don't inherit their football ability. You're just in their body. So you're going to be potentially starting
I'm just
in the
suddenly
Champions League.
absolute garbage. Right, well, then I need to be somebody who's not very good. Can I be Richarlison?
Whiteman's retired.
Oh, I don't want him doing my job.
He's retired. Can't be Whiteman. Can't take his job. That would be the
Can it be Thomas Frank? Actually, Thomas Frank, that's my answer. I'll be Thomas Frank because he's a teacher anyway, and he's pretty sensible. And people already think he's not doing a very good job as the manager. So if I just watch OhSoSpurs and subscribe to Prof Spur and I listen to what those lads are saying, and then I'll just base my managerial decisions from my homies, and then Thomas will be doing the right thing. So there you go. That was quite an easy one, actually. Cheers, Timbo.
Aaron, you could inherit. You've been playing football lately for your employer, so I'm going to give this one. You can inherit the ability. You can swap football abilities. You have to, though. I know you probably don't want to derail a Spurs. You might be really good, but I know you don't want to derail a Spurs player's career. But you can swap ability with someone who started against Man United on the week. You have to do it. So you're going to have to also witness them. You're going to be starting after the international break thinking, "Oh God, it's literally me in their body here." This isn't going to be good. You're going to be tearing it up against these 22-year-olds you're playing against.
Part of it is that this isn't starting to get too on the nose because I'm trying and struggling to play on a club with 22-year-olds in their 40s. But this wouldn't be good for Spurs, but it's like the type of experiment that I couldn't pass up the chance at. I would swap into the body of Mickey van de Ven.
You don't get the body, you're just swapping ability. So everyone's
I don't get the body?
No, you don't get the Johnny one. You literally, you have to swap with someone who started against Man United ability. So they get your ability of football and you get theirs. Same bodies. So you won't be able to run as fast as him, but you'll have the ability he has, like, you know, the coordination, all that stuff, but same bodies.
So I'll stick
yeah.
with end to end, but I'm going to try and play as a central midfielder and just see what happens. And then does that mean that he's going to give my lectures? Is that
No. So literally all that's going to happen is he's going to turn up at the next game thinking, why am I finding it so hard to control the ball? Why am I missing all my headers? Why is everyone around me
He's
feeling
still fast,
so like
though.
much fast? But he's still really fast. He just turns into Forrest Gump, basically.
I mean,
that's very harsh on you.
Would you not be entertained by a really, really clueless, extremely fast Mickey Van de Ven?
If he played for Arsenal, maybe.
Stu, you're entered into Strictly. Come dancing.
Yes.
You've got to choose one Spurs player to be your partner.
Oh.
You're going to take on the I actually know. It doesn't matter which role you take on. Who are you doing the tango with, mate? In front of millions. You've got to do the thing where you lift them above their head and twirl them as well. Or they lift you and twirl you. You've got to look them in the eyes.
I think I would have to go for one of our Latin American contingent. I'm sure they could probably.
They can dance, right?
Could dance.
Stereotypically.
Exactly.
Stereotypes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Blanket stereotype.
I say that as an Englishman who's been to many weddings, and my fellow English people I associate with, I haven't met a single one who can dance yet.
Exactly.
That's where I get that from.
That was where I was going from as well. Same logic. So I would be able to lift me up, and I feel confident about lifting me up. I'm gonna have to go with Romero. I mean,
yeah.
Who else?
Yeah.
He's the answer for like about 50% of his questions, isn't he?
Can't go wrong. If I'd have had Johnny's question, I would have gone for Ben Davis.
Well, let's go for that as well. Yeah, let's go for that as well.
Because
Ben Davis.
He's done his degree in business, so he could do my job, and I wouldn't have to get on the pitch because I would just sit in the stands. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah,
also,
that's true.
Johnny, I love how neither of you mentioned someone's got to take on raising your children for the rest of their lives.
Well, my kids are grown up.
Yeah, mine are as well.
Yeah, but they're still going to need to maybe support in certain situations.
Money,
yeah, exactly. Cash.
As long as they don't get sacked, it's fine.
They got to take care of your spouse.
Yeah, that's
where it gets a bit weird.
Ben Davis,
that's what I was thinking about, but didn't want to say
again. You can't go wrong with Ben Davis, gentle Ben. I mean, come on.
There's always one bit we have to cut.
That's true. Always... Yeah. I'm surprised you didn't say Vicario, though, Stu. There, I could just imagine the two of you looking at each other's eyes on the dance floor. Those beautiful eyes transfixed. You know.
Destiny. Actually, could go with Destiny. Destiny, I reckon. Ghost got a bit of...
Yeah, he'd be strong as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Easily lift you above his head. Yeah,
easily.
I reckon I'd go for Johnson. Because everyone's a knob to you anyway in the crowd. So, and I would just goal hang and then try, luckily, pull off a couple of goals. And I'd probably get the chance to play, because they'd be like, you are so good at getting in the right place and scoring. They'd probably play me in a final. Just on the hope, bring me on with 10 minutes to go, that I might just get a fluky moment where I could be in the right place at the right side, win a trophy for Spurs. But then he gets so much abuse already, unfairly, I might amplify that.
You're used to that though, aren't you, Gemma? All these social media trolls.
Yeah. Oh, yes. But yeah, all right, that's it, guys. I guess roll on the international break. We'll be back during the break. Send us your questions. Do send a review if you're listening on audio. It really helps us. And thank you for those who've been doing it. And join Discord group. I'll post it as always in the comments. And up the Spurs, guys.
Yeah, Spurs.